welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Appreciate your patience here this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and very happy to be here with you Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time on our typical schedule. Today a little bit different, so appreciate you being here with us. We're going to jump right into our first guest here inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Great Lakes Honda City on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. And they are there for sales and service Monday through Saturday, and make sure you go to GreatLakesHondaCity.com for more information. Inside of MonPawsPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', we're going to start the show off with Karl Haywood, coming to us, longtime photographer covering Georgia Tech, the ACC, and overall college football. He'll be joining us momentarily, and then we'll jump into our special with the Binghamton Bearcats in our Bearcat Breakroom with Neel Bhattacharjee, the head coach of the Binghamton women's soccer team, and of course the ingredients to success. So a lot of great stuff coming up here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Let's bring him in on the phones, Mr. Karl Haywood, here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Karl, how we doing today?
I'm doing all right. How about you? How's it going up there?
It's going well. It's definitely going well. It's definitely hot. But it's a lot hotter than it typically is in the state of New York. We have been getting some warmer summers, but it's been going all right. And Karl, I just want to jump into, for you, why choose the photography world? Why get into it? You've done it for such a long time. It's obviously something that you love and appreciate. Why did you decide to go that route and to be the person behind the camera?
Well, I played high school football. Not big enough and not good enough to go any further. But my family's been in the newspaper business since my dad bought the paper and then bought several other papers in 1946 after he came out of World War II. And we grew up in the business, and he bought me my first camera when I was 12 years old. And after playing high school ball, I started a sports coverage of high school football games in our immediate area, and the best way to do it at that time was to go around and take pictures at the ball games. And fortunately, I was eventually invited in the early or mid-'70s to help organize and join the Georgia Sports Writers Association. And I became, doing that, I was able to meet with Coach Dooley at Georgia and Coach Bill Curry at Georgia Tech. They had just hired Homer Rice as the athletic director at Georgia Tech, and they had just hired former player at Georgia Tech and a former professional football player, Bill Curry, to be the head coach. And that was where I got my first start covering Georgia Tech football. Now, I had listened to them on the radio and watched them on television, but that was in the late 70s, 78, somewhere around there. And at that time, the sports information director was Mike Finn, and he eventually went on to work with the ACC Central Office. And Mike is retired now, but he comes to the ACC kickoff event every year, and I get a chance to talk with him. I wound up having a really good relationship with Mike and his assistant SID, Mike Stamos. And Mike is just retired. That just tells you how long we've been at it. I've been really blessed to be able to go and take pictures at Georgia Tech football games and at high school games too. Seeing some really good athletes. And I just got to where I really liked being behind the camera instead of in front of the camera. I'm not a person who wants to be in front of the camera. I've got pictures to me that may not be important to anybody else, but I can't replace them. I've got pictures of Calvin Johnson. I've got pictures of pretty much every game since a home game. Now, I've never been able to go to town game covering Georgia Tech. For some reason, I admit we are a group of small community rural newspapers, and that doesn't qualify in a lot of cases to get credentials to go to major college football games. But since I've been going to Georgia Tech and covering them since 1980, I've been there pretty much longer than most everybody else there. And I've been really fortunate to be at some of the really big ball games at Georgia Tech and see some amazing things and some great athletes and great coaches. Coach O'Leary coached Coach Brent Key. They recruited him, and he was Coach Brent Key was a starting offensive guard at Georgia Tech for 4 years. And they had some really good football teams. Coach Ralph Friedgen was the offensive coordinator and eventually became the head coach at Maryland. And Coach Friedgen put together a really strong offense. And Coach Key learned from great people. He went on we'd followed Coach O'Leary to Central Florida and was an offensive coach there. And then he went to Alabama and was offensive coach under Nick Saban, was a line coach for 2 national championship teams. And then he came back to Georgia Tech, and he's got a really good program going now. I'm just fortunate to have been able to be there and see a lot of the games up close. It's gotten a lot different now with the ACC network. Photographers used to have a better shot at the games, but now we have a space in between us and the field where the television cameras and the sound microphones have access to it. And once you get in a position to try to take a picture, it's hard to, once the team starts moving, it's hard to get around where you can get a decent picture. So sometimes you just get blocked out.
Yeah, but like you said, I mean, you've gotten to see so much history. You've gotten to be a part of so many amazing moments in the sports world. Like you said, that your pictures of Calvin Johnson, your pictures of all these players and coaches, and then to have George O'Leary and have him coaching Brent Key, and now to see Brent Key as the head coach, it has to be surreal through your eyes, because you've essentially, I mean, people talk about coaching trees and people talk about change and whatnot, but you're literally living it. Like, you're living a young Brent Key learning his way, and then here's Coach Brent Key leading the way. I mean, that has to be one of the most incredible and unique pieces of your job, is to look through your pictures and to be able to go up to a coach or go up to a player and show them themselves at 18, 19, 24, 25, and then turn around and show them, hey, coach, this is you at 25, this is you at 50. And, hey, Kelvin, this is you in your first season, and look at everything you've become after that. So, I mean, I feel like through the world of pictures, you've captured so much of history that it has to be amazing to go through your timeline and go through like your physical pictures. And so many people look through books and they look online and they look at all this stuff. You get to just go to the attic or go to a folder that you have in your office. And I mean, you help to create these, you captured these moments that essentially can tell the stories that so many people seek after. And I just think it's incredible. I think it's amazing. I really honestly can't say enough words about it, because it's so unique, and you should be really proud of yourself.
Well, I really appreciate that. And yeah, I feel really fortunate that I'm only able to be on the sidelines. I don't only get to go in the locker room, but that's okay. I'm on the sidelines. I get to see these young men and the character. And I will say that almost every coach that I have been able to cover at Georgia Tech, and I say almost every, but Paul Johnson did an exceptional job, a great coach. Coach O'Leary was a great defensive coach. He came in under Coach Bobby Ross, He was part of that group that put together a national championship team in 1990 at Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
And Ralph Friedgen was the offensive coordinator. Bobby Ross was the head coach. George O'Leary was the defensive coordinator. And they had the Black Watch defense, and they were something to see. Then to watch Sean Jones at quarterback and William Bell at running back, and they went on to win the national championship in 1990. And that it's going to be strange to watch the two teams play, Georgia Tech and Colorado, to start the season off. That year in 1990, it was a split decision on who was the national champion. Georgia Tech got the coaches award for the national championship, and they were the only undefeated team. They had a tie, but they were at that time you could tie, and but Colorado had lost a game, and they had an unusual situation playing, and got 5 downs inside the 5-yard line and scored and won the ball game. But they were the sports writers national champion in 1990. So it was a split national championship. So the two teams are going to face each other again for the first time. That should be interesting. I don't have a chance to go to that game. But my son covers games for me sometimes, and he's going to try to make it to that game. To be able to be there and be on the sidelines is an amazing thing, something that very few people get an opportunity to do in their life. And I am very fortunate. Good Lord has blessed me and given me that opportunity to meet some of these young men, to listen to the coaches. And Coach Key learned from great coaches, and he has a sound program. It's built on pretty much what Homer Rice and Bill Curry brought to the program was what they called a total student athlete.
Yeah.
And they make these young men go to class and get a degree because it was their position. There's only so many spots in the NFL. There's only so many chances to get in there. We want you to get in there if you can. But we want you prepared to be a good citizen, a good person, a good family man, and have an education and a degree from one of the top institutions of higher learning in the world. And there's nothing else that we want for you. We want to be great on the football field, but we want you to be great in the classroom and great in the community. And to be just a little part, a minute part of that, to try to bring that to the public to where they can read it and see the pictures. And I tried to take pictures, particularly of players from our immediate area who were playing at Georgia Tech. Eddie Lee Ivory was a running back at Georgia Tech. He played at Thompson High School. Jerry Mays was a running back at Georgia Tech. He played at Thompson High School. Demarius Thomas, he was a wide receiver at Georgia Tech. He played at Dublin. To be there and watch some of these players, I didn't get to cover Roddy Jones in high school, but now he's an ESPN analyst.
Yeah.
And was a great player at Georgia Tech. It's just something that it's irreplaceable in my book. And I appreciate your comments.
No, and I definitely appreciate this, and I appreciate the history and the story that you have to tell. And unfortunately, this morning on my side, we don't have time to expound on a lot of things, so I'm going to have to bring you back. And so I consider this kind of the appetizer of the conversation with Karl Haywood, because there's plenty more to talk about the history of college football and seeing it through the lens. So I look forward to having you back, Karl, and you and I will figure that out scheduling-wise so that we can truly, properly tell this story. But I am grateful for you, as you know, as a friend, as someone that has just been a wonderful human being, a good heart, a good soul, a trustworthy person, and somebody who just gives and gives and gives of himself. So you definitely should have the best, and I look forward to having you back so that we can continue to tell your story through your lens.
Well, I appreciate that, Dan, and it's been an honor to be on your program, but also an honor to have you as a friend. We met at the ACC kickoff event several years ago, and I can't tell you how much your friendship means to me and what a good job you're doing to help promote college football in the ACC.
Well, I appreciate it, and you're doing the same. I look forward to talking with you soon, Karl, and God bless as always.
Okay, God bless you, and you take care of yourself and your family.
You too. Take care.
Yes, sir.
That coming from Karl Haywood once again here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and definitely just my mistake today. Surely just didn't set an alarm, and so home to the studio, all that good stuff, and making sure you set an alarm, folks. I did have probably the best sleep that I've had in months, or maybe this year. So that's a blessing from God, and I'm going to look at the glass half full on that, and the fact that Karl's so gracious and good and able to ad-lib with me. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios will proudly bring you the absolute wonderful opportunity to hear from Neel Bhattacharjee.
Located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McInerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Brian and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Brian and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Brian's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Brian's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Life gets busy, and sometimes that means us running around. So Canine Camp Dog Daycare offers you an opportunity to give your dog a place to stay while you take care of what you need to throughout the day. Canine Camp Dog Daycare is located on 228 Old Bridge Street in East Syracuse, New York. You can see it from the highway, and it's just off of Erie Boulevard across from BJ's Wholesale Club. Call 315-437-7110. That's 315-437-7110 to schedule an appointment to bring your dog in and tour the facility. Appointments are Monday through Thursday after 6:30, where you and your dog can see everything that Canine Camp Dog Daycare has to offer, including a self-serve dog wash and a retail store filled with all of your dog's wants and needs, including food, treats, harnesses, leashes, and more, making Canine Camp Dog Daycare your one-stop shop for your furry-loving friend. Right, Lily?
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Proud to be here with you Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Like today, we are here inside of our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with the Binghamton University Bearcats, and part of that is the Bearcat Breakroom with student athletes, coaches,
and administration, as well as alumni, being a part of the show. I am picture in picture with Neel Bhattacharjee here, the head coach of the women's soccer team at Binghamton University. And it is always a great time when I have Coach on because I know that the season's here. So, Coach, how are you?
I'm doing well, Dan. So good morning to you, and appreciate you having me on. Appreciate you highlighting the women's soccer program here at Binghamton.
Yeah, well, it's my pleasure. I got to say something though, Coach, because you and I, we've done these where we're picture in picture. We've done these when we're in person, but you got like fresh, even like more tan. You got the shine going on. Like you got a little something to you, Coach. Are you feeling good? I mean, is there something? It seems like your spirit's kind of showing in your face. I always say that to people when people look really happy or positively charged. Am I reading you right? Is there some more positive energy coming through you now?
Yeah, I think it's been a really good summer. I personally feel healthy, feel good, had some time with the family, had some downtime here and there, some vacation here and there, but putting in the work. And now I'm in preseason, so that's where I'm sure you see the tan coming out, and it's been a good preseason so far. So I think some of the joy and the expressions that you're seeing is just being around the kids and kind of what we've been able to do at this early point in the season. So enjoying it so far.
Yeah, and how does that move you? When you're around your student athletes, I mean, when you're away from them and you're still keeping in touch with them, seeing how they're doing, how's their family and all of that, and keeping the family going. But there's a difference between how are you text message and then physically being in front of them. When you are around your student athletes, how do they kind of lift you up?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the time that we as coaches all live for, so it's, you do all this work over the spring, and then it's not a great time to have a break. I really wish that at the end of the spring, after all the development that we've had, that we can go right into season. But then basically you've got like this 3.5-4 month break, and you're just kind of waiting. You're just kind of chomping at the bit, and you're like, oh, that step that we took in the spring, where we saw so many of our players take positive steps. Now that we're all back, it's great to see it. And our kids have done a lot of work on their own over the course of the summertime, and so it's great to see all of that come to fruition. But now it's exciting because you get to see them do it together. And you can see the team gelling, vibing, having some good chemistry. We do have a somewhat of a blend of a team, where we return a good amount of starters, but we also brought in a pretty big freshman class. It's actually our biggest class of 9 players. So getting all the student athletes, seeing their energy, seeing how they're feeding off of one another, certainly that becomes infectious. And as a coach, you can certainly appreciate that positive energy coming throughout.
Yeah, and I wanted to go there with you, and you just jumped into it. The fact that there's a mixed blend of seeing a bunch of names next to the word senior in this 2025 season, but then also seeing, like you said, 9 names with that freshman next to their name. So what can you say to the blend of that? Like you said, bringing in your biggest freshman class, and at the same time, you have some juniors, you got a bunch of seniors on the team. There's the grad student world as well. So the mixing of new and return.
Right. So, and if you look at our conference, so the America East this year within women's soccer, there's actually been quite a bit of turnover. If you look at some of the other programs, whereas for us, I feel like we're bringing in a good amount back in terms of returners, and as we've been going through things in preseason between myself and our associate head coach Chris Hall. A lot of it has been review, which is nice. It's not the first time that a lot of our returners have heard things, but at the same time, we know we can't make any assumptions. We brought in a number of freshmen. We brought in one grad transfer, a 5th year. So for them, we really have to make sure that, we explain everything so that we're all using the same terminology, we're all on the same page. And it does end up being a good review for a lot of our starters. So on the field, and also what we're doing in terms of kind of like chalk talk, video sessions, all of that, it's bringing a lot of that together, making sure that we're all on the same page, and then get an opportunity to working it on the field. So it's been good. I think our kids are really gelling. They're starting to see the system, see the strengths that we have, and certain personalities that we know, their unique attributes that they can bring within their play on the field. That's starting to show as well. So we're relatively healthy. That's good. We do have a couple kids that are out with injuries, but for the most part, large majority of our team is relatively healthy, and hopefully we can keep that going through the fall. And it's been good to see that connection starting to happen.
And you said going through the spring that when things are going so well and you kind of are in this momentum, you want to just jump right into playing. You don't want to have this summer in between the spring and the fall. How do you bridge the gap? What do you do with your team to make sure that whatever you had in the spring and whatever you're building off of continues to roll into the fall? How do you bring spring and fall together when there is that summer piece?
So a lot of it honestly does come down to our kids, because we as coaches, we're somewhat limited in terms of the contact that we can have.
Right.
We can do certain things, like if someone's coming off an injury, asking about how they're doing, how their recovery is going, having conversations here and there, not really getting to specifics in terms of, what they're doing as far as specific like fitness standards or things like that. Between me and Chris, we actually were able to get to a couple summer league games, because a lot of our kids play with semi-pro teams over the summer, so we're able to see them that way. And then a lot of our players do it too. They're broken up into what they call family communication groups. So like a captain or a senior leader will check in on them. Groups of 5 to 7 players, and hey, how you doing? Or today, this is when you were supposed to do this part of the fitness packet. How did it go? And a lot of them were also asking questions in terms of the packet itself to our strength and conditioning coach, Lori Gleason. So even though we weren't there physically, we still had connections. We were still tied to things, whether it was one of the coaches or through the players, specifically the upperclassmen and the captains themselves. And I think it was good for everyone to just kind of still hear that voice, have it be in your ear. And for us, it's key that there's no surprises once you get to preseason. That everything's been clearly laid out. That who the leadership is, and that we've got a pretty good direction in terms of what we're going to follow.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, you have a plan, obviously, that you put in place, and there's this thing with coaches of you get the players that you bring in, right? You have the players that are returning, their strengths and weaknesses. You have players that you bring in, their strengths and weaknesses. And some coaches do square peg round hole. This is my system. This is what you have to play. This is what I like. This is what I want to do. This is what I feel comfortable with. And sometimes your personnel doesn't really fit that. And so when you look at this specific season for 2025, have you adjusted to your personnel and kind of looked at things and said, okay, this is what we like to do. However, we can really lean on these 3 players for this. We can look at this player for that. This is what we're going to see, defensively. How have you kind of, because I think every year you have to be somewhat flexible or else you're not a good coach.
Yeah, that's certainly true. And my take on it, like you said, there are some coaches out there. They play this system, and they're going to peg players within that system. For me, I've been pretty flexible. Even when it comes to our system of play, if we're going to do a 4-3-3, it's because we have the personnel to play a 4-3-3. If that doesn't make sense, we got to do a 4-4-2 or whatever. We'll come up with that. So our take on it is, as we go through recruiting and we put a roster together, we're going to come up with a system, a style of play that best suits the attributes of our team. And, there's certain things that always are going to be the case with Binghamton women's soccer. We like to play good blend of soccer. It's a brand that's going to be exciting. Defensively, we're going to be pretty stout in the back. We're going to be able to connect the lines. We like to play a nice, crisp passing game, and then picky some moments that, we could break down opponents. But, those are kind of always going to be hallmarks of our team, of our program. But then now you're trying to come up with these nuances nuances in terms of what will fit your team well. So where we are right now, knowing the returners that we have, we knew about certain things in terms of their style of play. But then now you also got, new freshmen. You got players that are chomping at the bit that, okay, maybe she was starting in this position, but I think I can win that job, which is great. That's, the competitive mentality environment that you want to have at this level. So now we're having to make some of those adjustments, and we're doing that all in a good way. We had a big loss in terms of, when Paige Luke had a season-ending injury. She's someone that was Rookie of the Year the year previously, probably was going to be on her way to an all-conference season, and we lost her a few minutes into our first conference game, and we just had our first scrimmage, and here she is. She's breaking the fitness record that we've had, and being such an impactful player in our first scrimmage. And it's like, okay, yeah, we're gonna go back to adding this element within our game as well. So those are the things that honestly that we have to witness and watch ourselves and learn from, because if it's something that we think is going to give us a competitive advantage, and we're seeing it throughout different areas of the field, yeah, definitely we're gonna add that in. So yeah, definitely want to be flexible in terms of the depth and the different personalities that we have.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, when you have a story about someone whose season is cut short beyond their control, and they have the opportunity to come back and to, like you said, have an impact right away. I mean, what does that do for you as a coach when you get to see that, right? You get to see this player who is heartbroken that they're not going to finish out their season, and then you see the other side of it where you saw the heartbreak, but now you see the comeback, right? The setback and the comeback. What does that do for you as a coach when you see this painful moment turn into a beautiful next chapter?
Yeah, I mean, just the normal human element, you're so inspired. That's not even me as a coach. You're just so inspired to see this. Here's someone that, she underwent surgery in November, and less than 9 months later, here she is, banging it out in terms of setting a new fitness standard. But I also got to see a lot of that over the course of the spring. I didn't necessarily see it over the summer because, of course, we weren't in person. But seeing all the work and the drive and the grind that went into it over the course of the spring, hearing it from her physical therapist, who I knew after dealing with an injury myself. So you hear that firsthand, and when I remember when she was breaking the record, you actually saw our strength coach, our trainer, a couple players start to get a little teary-eyed because how can you not? And I wasn't teary-eyed in that particular moment because I was more kind of cheering her on. But I remember coming home later that night talking to my wife about it, and I felt like I was getting emotional just describing it. So when you see someone who's heartbroken, who goes through that pain, and then to just see the work and the effort that goes into it, and just how they come out on the other side, it's just so inspiring. And honestly, I'm in awe of her because there's not too many people that could have done what she did.
Yeah, and that comeback, that just everybody has adversity, right? You as a coach have had it, playing, you've had it. And it's funny because when we go through life, we have this thought that, God don't give us adversity. I don't want any adversity. I'm a good guy. I'm a good girl. I try, I pray. I work hard. I do what I'm supposed to do. I don't want, I shouldn't have any adversity. I put good in. I should get good out. And then you realize throughout your life, and I've definitely realized this, is we need adversity, because without adversity, you never find out who you are. So as a head coach, what adversity can you go to in recent history, even last year to this year, that you felt like has compelled you to have your own rebirth or leveling up, so to speak?
Right. So, I think in the America East, when we get to these conference games, it's there's a lot of parity in the conference, right? So it's a lot of one-goal games. So, we talk to our team about when we do come to those moments of adversity, we don't necessarily talk about the concept of failure. We talk about the concept of response. So, can you brush yourself off and get back up? And our team actually they come up with the core values that we have. So our core values this year, the first one actually happens to be resilience. So it's resilience, competitiveness, unity, and respect. So those are the four things that we're going to live by over the course of the season. So that's a big part in terms of their mentality and their mindset. And as it comes to me, for us, we talked about an opportunity this year. Even if you look at last season, we finished in third place and finished the season in the semifinal, which a lot of programs, they'd be thrilled with that. But when you're here for Binghamton women's soccer, you want to be competing for championships. So really what we wanted to do is just focus on what can we do today? How can we win the day? How can we get better? We know what we want to do at the end, but if we can focus on just the process itself, continue to make gains every single day, we know that we can be where we want to be come the end of October into November. So all we need to do is just control any time that we do have a setback, because there's going to be some, as you mentioned, but if we have the proper mindset and response, and we've got the right team culture where people are supporting and rooting for one another, we'll be in a good spot over the course of the season and know where we want to be towards the end.
Yeah, and you just spoke about here with Neel Bhattacharjee, the head coach of the Binghamton Bearcats women's soccer program, going into the 2025 season. In this edition of the Bearcat Breakroom on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios and here in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with Binghamton University, you spoke on those pillars, those 4 pillars, and you said, my team gets to choose these every year. We choose what our mantra is going to be, what we're going to focus on. Why did you choose to do that? Why, instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to put these things on the wall and every team every year, regardless of who transfers in or freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, grad student, whatever it is, like, I'm Neel Bhattacharjee, this is what I'm focusing on. Why are you willing to say, hey, 2024, ladies, what's our focus? 2025, what's our focus? 2026, what's our focus? Obviously, you want to win, but your path to it, why did you take the leadership choice of, instead of just having a quote on the wall saying, I want my team to tell me what we're going to focus on this year to get what we want to get to?
Right. So, for me, there's always going to be non-negotiables within our program, and that those are things that I believe in. We're always going to be on time. We're always going to work hard. That's a minimum. Like, you don't gain anything within the program just by working hard, because everyone does that. So those are things that we're always going to have a piece to believe in. We're always going to come in fit. That's an expectation, right? That that's a minimum standard to play soccer at this level. But after that, I think then you have to work with your student athletes in terms of meeting them where they're at. So I have weekly meetings with our captains so I can get a good sense of kind of where our team is. And they can keep certain things private, but just so we all know, we've got a pretty good idea of kind of where the team is at all times. We also do that with the leadership group. And each class has members within that leadership group, so we'll be starting that up in a little bit. And then I want to know what's important to you. Yeah. And I do think part of that, quite honestly, it is generational. I was used to kind of that top-heavy mindset, that you spoke of. Like, yep, you do this, okay. You want me to run through this wall, okay. Got you, coach, okay. Whereas now, a lot of these kids, they want to know why. Okay, I will do that, but I need to understand why. What's the reason behind it? And they're just more inquisitive, which I think is a great thing. And then when you work with kids within this generation, again, I just think it's important to really get to know them, to understand them, know their why, and then it's way easier for them to buy into something when they feel like they have a collective ownership because of it. So, hey, I felt like a little bit of our competitiveness, that edge wore off a little bit today. Hey guys, I know you spoke about this, so how do we bring it back? And it's something that they started with, so they're going to own it and they're going to respond to it. So I think as a coach, you have to know, there's going to be some hard lines, there's going to be some non-negotiables, but at the end of the day, you got to work with your student athletes, especially with the current climate in terms of student athletes today. And I'm saying all of this in a very positive sense. I think it's a great thing. I think we've evolved to this stage, and if you can get the kids to really come up with it and believe it, and they kind of put it out there, it's way easier for them to believe in. And honestly, for me as a coach, it's easier for me to coach within that, because that's what they're about. They get it, they understand it, and then it actually ends up being a little bit of me following along with what they want.
Well, yeah, and like you said, I mean, back in the day, it was, hey, I want you to run because, I don't need to tell you why. Like, we're running today. We're going to work on cardio. We're going to work on endurance. This is the drill we're going to do because this is the drill that I want to do. And then this is drill 1, this is drill 2, this is drill 3, this is how we're running practice. But you said now they'll say, all right, coach, I'll do it, but tell me why. Why am I doing this specific footwork drill? This is it. Why am I running ladders when I just want to be shooting today? And you said we're evolving. It's not a de-evolution, but an evolution of this. Why do you believe that having a generation that says, before I take a step, before I make a kick, before I decide to get on this track and run, tell me why, Coach. Tell me why, Coach Bhattacharjee. Why is that good that we are living in the generation of why, essentially?
I just think it's just a deeper level of understanding, and as I mentioned earlier, I think kids now they ask questions and they want to know that they want to understand the why. So it's not so much about just feeding them information and things to memorize. This is a group that they want to be able to understand the concepts behind it and put the pieces together. We try to do it in a few different ways. Before we go to training, they actually see our practice plan. During training, we'll give them the actual bits and pieces of, okay, this is what you need to do in your role and why we're doing this. And then when we're doing a video session, okay, this is the why. This is what it means. This is why you're doing this, because when you look at the 10 other players around you, see the impact that you're going to have. So again, I just think it gives them a deeper understanding. I think you can ask questions, but the idea is once you're on the field is that you come up with solutions, and that the kids themselves are empowered to come up with those solutions. So anytime you can give someone that sense of empowerment and having control over the situation, I think it's just going to make them a more confident player, and honestly just a more confident human being.
And I love that, like you said, I mean, if you put it on them, if you put the onus on them, like you said, you have your non-negotiables, we're going to be on time, we're going to come in fit, certain things that you have to have, but then to turn around and say, okay, what do you want to focus on? Because when you talk about resiliency, if they give up on a play, then you say, okay, well, y'all said that you wanted to be resilient. You chose that. So now instead of coach told us to, it's like I have to hold myself accountable to what we've agreed to. And you're allowing them, you're not writing a contract and handing it to them, you're allowing them to write the contract with you. And in doing something like that, I can imagine that when things go well, the team gets really excited to say, okay, we did what we were supposed to do. But then even there's a team that has some success will say things went well, yay for us, even though we didn't follow everything that we put in the plan. Everything we signed in that contract, we didn't really follow that. We didn't really abide by that. We were late to practice 3 times this week, but we won, so good for us. A great team would say we won, but we are not at our best yet. We won, but we weren't on time. We won, but I'm not going to wait for coach to tell us to run. I'm a captain of this team. I'm going to practice, and when Coach Bhattacharjee shows up, we're already on the line. So I'd love to speak to that a little bit more, the difference between good and great.
that a good team will say, hey, whether we kept our word or not, we still won, who cares? Where a great team would say, we didn't keep our word, so even though we won, we said that we have an expectation of this program and we have to live up to it. We can't just live up to whatever we think that day as long as we get by.
Yeah, and I think what you're getting to, you're touching upon it, but as you're getting to a deeper level, you're building accountability, right? Because it's okay. This is what we said we were going to do. Okay, well that's great, but you can talk the talk. Now can you walk the walk, right? Because if you can do all the buzzwords, and even our team, they have the core values, but now they have to actually exhibit them, right? They have to live them. They have to show them in daily practice, and if they don't, that's where we can. That's your accountability. Okay, hey, we spoke about this. This is what we meant to do, and if you don't do it, well, then that's where you kind of fall in a line of being a hypocrite, right? Saying one thing but doing another. So that's an important life lesson. Not just on the soccer pitch, but something that you can take in life. And I think that's a lot of things. Soccer's just a game, but these kids are going to get their degrees in 4 years, and I want them to be great alumni representing Binghamton University out in the real world. And these are lessons that I want them to take with them. And even when it comes to team policies, team rules, a lot of that it does get passed down from year to year, but we make adjustments. And I actually work with our team like, hey, what do you think? Is there something that we should eliminate? Is there something that we should add? One thing that they wanted to add this year is they wanted to have a note about how everyone should accept their role, whatever the role may be. Whether it's within the team, on the field, off the field. I'm like, okay, great, because that was something that we touched upon and talked upon last year. So that's something that we're paying a little bit more attention to this year. So again, I love it when the kids are thinking about the team culture itself, because it shows how important it is to them, and how much they want to live that out in their own lives.
And culture is such an important word to me, and I think it's funny when people say this is a buzzword or this is coach speak or whatever that is, because to me it's like the word culture should always be important, because if you're not building it, you're eroding it. And I mean, you can't just stand still in it, so you're either building or eroding. So culture should be talked about. And then when they say, coach speak, when a coach says, I don't want to talk about the game 5 matches from now, I'm focused on this one, that's not coach speak to me. Like that, if you're a coach telling me, Dan, I'm looking at October 19th, okay, well, Neel, I'd prefer that you look at August. You know what I mean? So it to the word culture, which I find myself going to so much, not because it's a buzzword or a word that the media likes, because I could care less about. I never know what the trending words are in the media because I don't care. I think about culture because of what I just said. It's either eroding or it's building. You just mentioned the word and saying we focused in this year about everybody, be it on the field or off the field, having a role on this team. So what is the culture of Binghamton women's soccer? How would you describe that culture and that environment in this creation of the substance of your program? Essentially, it's not just wins and losses.
Yeah. So, defining culture, you could define it in so many different ways, right? It's kind of this big nebulous idea. One thing that we've spoken about is one way you could define culture is what you allow. Okay, well, we're not going to allow energy vampires. We're not going to allow people to say one thing and then do another. We're not going to allow for cliques and divisions between classes and, the captain saying one thing and the rest of the team doing something else. So that's one way that you can define it. For us, a big part of our culture is just, how we just like to focus on the day to day. So yeah, you mentioned, October 19th, and, we know where we want to be at the end of October and getting into November. But we don't really talk about that. Like, we know that's the big idea. That's the big goal. But really what we want to do is focus on what we need to do day to day. Okay, we want to win America's regular season championship and win the postseason and make the NCAA's. things that we're going to have to do day to day in order for that to happen. So really, we just focus on our daily commitments. How we push one another, how we bring in positive energy, how we treat our bodies in terms of hydration, nutrition, recovery, how we're going to uplift one another, how we compete hard every day in training. I've seen training right now, and some of the sessions that we've had, it's been some high levels trainings, and I honestly think we actually might have some training sessions that are going to be more competitive and harder than some of the games we may have this year, because the spirit and how everyone's really competing and pushing one another, and that's a great thing. It's a great thing to be a part of. When you've created that environment. I think those are big things and concepts within our culture, and we work on it. We did a activity the other day where I came up with a couple different tough team scenarios. Like, okay, hey, what if this below the line behavior happened? What are you going to do about it? How would you have that conversation? Because I think you have to actually rehearse those conversations. Knowing that you can approach a teammate and have difficult talks. So we did that. We had our new mental health counselor, Megan Gosfield, met with our team. It was great to hear her background and what she does with sports psychology. And we're going to continue to do a couple other things. So, and I think, the pitfall that a lot of young coaches can do is they'll talk about culture in preseason, once or twice. And it's like, okay, did that, there's the check mark, but no, you live and breathe it every day. Stuff that, we can spend more time on in preseason, and it's important, because it's the beginning of the year, but, how are you going to really approach it over the course of the season? Because we know that if you got a healthy culture and the team has that bond and that chemistry, that's going to be a huge competitive advantage, once we get to games, especially in conference.
Yeah, I mean, they say that you work with people that you like, and you work with people that you trust. So if you're going through a tough time, if a goal's scored, if something breaks through, if something breaks down, if there's a loss somewhere, but you like each other and you enjoy each other's company and you value each other and you know the role that everybody has, then you're there. I mean, it's easy for I tell people that all the time. I'm like, man, when coaches are winning, they get bombarded. But if I was a coach, I'd be like, who was sitting in my office when I was 3 and whatever? Like, who was the person that called me when nobody knew who I was, and when people said they should have never hired that person? So, I always look to that. And I remember a softball coach, Lee Ross at Syracuse. I was sitting in her office, and she said to me, and she was like, because I know you were at Syracuse before, and Lee said to me, she goes, Dan, like, if people want to talk to me, if we win and they want to get around me, I'm not going to turn down free publicity. But she said, you're here, and she's like, and who, like, nobody else is here. She's like, you have my cell phone, you're sitting here in my office, you will always have a place on the couch in my office because you've been here. I'm not going to turn down the media when they show up, but if you need something, you call me. And, so you talk about, those relationships and building them and having an actual connection, an actual family, and of people that you can go to, that the door is open, and that you can interact. So as a head coach, Neel, for you, when you are interacting with your student athletes beyond soccer, what do you enjoy? When they come into the office, like, what is it? Is it like, hey, coach, just want to let you know I got an A on my project I was talking about? Or like, hey, coach, my parents, they just came to visit, and it was so great to see my grandma. I haven't seen her in a while. She just got out of the hospital. Like, what are these conversations like when you're just with your people and you're talking with your team and it's all just one big old family, because there's a difference between having a team and being with your people. So what's it like when you're just hanging out with your people, with this team?
Yeah, so it's funny that you asked that question today, because actually just yesterday, the whole team was over at my house, and my wife makes brunch for everybody. Something that we do every year, and it's one of my favorite days, because the kids, they're just hanging out. It's not around soccer, my wife's here, both my daughters are here, so my kids are getting to see them. And I think it's really great from a family perspective that, my daughters, I'm going to have a sophomore in high school and 8th grader, that they are looking up to these young women and seeing everything that they're about and what they've been able to accomplish. And I've got a competitive cheerleader and a volleyball player, so not soccer players, but they relate to the athletic experience. So yeah, I just really enjoy those moments where we just get to hang, talk. Another thing that we're looking into is the potential to perhaps do a foreign trip. I would love to take this group perhaps in the spring because to give them that not just that competitive piece but the cultural component as well. These are such formidable years where they can go to another country and experience another culture and see what people are like. So that's a work in progress, but knowing that that could be another potential experience that they could get to. So yeah, I enjoy that, and I really take a lot from our current players, and like the example you said about doing well on a test, or when they talk glowingly about their family, but also our alumni. It's just so impressive to see what our alums are doing, and then when they text me like, "Hey, coach, I got my graduate degree," or I got this position. I've been working so hard to be a dentist or to finish my MBA. You hear that, and their experience at Binghamton played a part in that. Not necessarily soccer, but just their overall experience at Binghamton. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff as a coach you live for, you dream for.
Yeah, and I love hearing that. And I'm not just saying this because you and I are on here. Like, I love our conversations because I feel that energy. You know what I mean? And it makes me, like, in my head as you're talking just now, I was like, mental note, I got to ask Neel if we can just like hang out in his office this season at some point, catch up, watch film, do something, because I really genuinely, like, when you're around a genuine person, you can sense it and you can feel it. And talking with you, I just feel like I go back to when we were standing on the field at Jones Road, and I'm like, man, I could sit here for like 2 hours and just talk to him, 3 hours. And now I'm sitting here having a conversation with you, and I'm like, yeah, I want to come see a match this year, but I want to like talk to you beyond that. I just want to kind of just be there with you and hang out and just talk about life. That was one of the coolest things I did bringing this plan to Binghamton, is that when I met with Gene, the first time that Gene Marshall and I spoke, we spoke for such a long time about who he is as a person and who I am and how we align. And then we talked like a little bit about like, okay, this is what we want to do and how we want to do. It was more like, do I believe in the person? Do I think that this person is someone I should partner with? Do I trust this person? And then it was like, the plan was this big, but like, who are you as an individual and what do you stand for was so huge. And I just feel like whenever I have these conversations with you, I'm just like, man, I should apologize to Neel that we don't talk more. So that's on me,
No,
Neel.
I enjoy it.
We should.
Yeah, no, and absolutely. And you were talking about the right people to be around. And for me, the people that I trust the most are the ones that, yeah, they can give me the positivity when things are going well. But sometimes, that's okay. That's, when things are going well, like, yeah, anybody can say something nice. But who's there for you when times are tough? And then who also will be there to critique you? And that's why I think we got a great leader in Gene Marshall, and other people that we have within the department. Things are going well, yeah, I'm going to get the pat on the back. And if things are not going so well, okay, hey, things aren't going so well. What do we got to do? What are things that you need to fix? Where are things that we can help you to step up? The more you can surround yourself with, like you said, good, genuine people that are going to be there regardless, the good times or the bad times. Those are the people that are going to have your back no matter what, and always going to be there for you.
Yeah, well, I love that. So you and I will make some time this season for sure.
Let's do it.
I want to jump into rapid fire. I also want to make a note here really quick, because if you think I didn't catch it, I caught it. I saw that schedule, and I know you're at
George Washington, and I know you're at Syracuse, and I know you're at BC, and I'm looking at the schedule, and I was like, all right, August 31st on a Sunday, George Washington comes to town. Next game at Syracuse, Thursday, September 4th. So not only do we have two places you've been, but we got them back to back, one home, one away. So before we get to rapid fire, I got to ask you just how that was putting that together, George Washington and Syracuse, and where's BC at? That's my other question.
Yeah. So George Washington, we actually played last year. Went down to DC.
Yeah.
I think it's a great experience. Anytime our kids can go to DC, that's actually the second biggest city as far as Binghamton alums, outside of New York City, of course. So it's great to expose them to that. So we went down there. Now they're returning to us. They're gonna, I believe they're playing Colgate right before us, so they were making a weekend out of it. In Central New York. And then Syracuse, really thankful for Nikki Adams and her staff, that we've been able to keep this game going. When Nikki took over, we've been able to play in 4 years in a row. It's always a very good game. Hoping we can get a result this time because Syracuse, it's always been a game that they've won by goal. So it's been a tight match, especially the last couple of years. So, and it's good to be back, to see the folks there, good people over at Cuse, and some memories. And then as far as Boston College, they got a new coach, Chris Watkins. I guess he's not so new now. He's going into his third year, but have gotten to meet and know him. So yeah, maybe we'll be making our way over to Chestnut Hill at some point. But that would be a great game. And actually, Andrea Morrow, one of their assistants, used to be at UMass Lowell, know from her Americas days. So yeah, it's good whenever you can get those games on the schedule. A little bit of mixed feelings, because everywhere I've been, I've had good experiences and all of that. But once the whistle blows, then you get to focus on and concentrate on the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm excited to see those coming up here, and like I said, one at home and then one an hour away, so not too far away at all. We're jumping in rapid fire here in this Bearcat Breakroom with Neel Bhattacharjee, head coach of the Binghamton Bearcats women's soccer team heading into the 2025 season, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Neel, you got the first question. What is your question for me?
Let's see. What's your favorite team out of Italy?
Oh, boy. Great question. I just went to Italy. Finally got to go with my dad. So I feel like AC Milan is such an easy answer. But I don't know, when they bring the team together to represent the country, my whole thing is I don't care where you came from. I don't care what team you came from, what club you're at. I want to see Italy on the map. And when they won during COVID, they won the Euro. Mm-hmm. They had to face Spain. And I have Spanish and Italian blood. And I was like, okay, no matter what, we're good. But there was a video that I put out when Italy won, and I was on the edge of my seat. And I jumped up at the screen and I just went nuts and I screamed. And so, I guess I would say AC Milan, but in all honesty, whenever the nation comes together to play the world, it's funny because it's no disrespect to America. When a World Cup comes around or something like that, or if it's the Euros, then I have Spain and Italy. But when the World Cup comes around, I want America to do well. But I am so in tune with Italy and Spain. I have Italy and Spain soccer balls in my house. When I have kids someday, these are the balls they're going to be kicking around. So, I just feel like I'm just a big Italy fan. And I'm really upset because one of my jerseys has a mark on it. There's a blue that started to come out. So I have to get a new Italian jersey. But I guess I would say Milan. But honestly, if you're repping Italy and you're doing it well, I got you. And shout out to my 2006 Italy national team that won the World Cup, because I was working at Epcot and there were a bunch of French people there, and they took up the whole, where the cast members, where we are in, I don't think anybody was working the French pavilion when the game was on. and there's an Italy pavilion too. There was so many French people. They put French flags on the sides of the TV, and it was like me and somebody else that was cheering for Italy. Penalty kicks. I jumped up and I yelled "Viva Italia" and I ran. But yeah, shout out to '06 because that's the first time I got to witness that when I was paying attention to it. So yeah.
Awesome.
My question back to you, Neel, if you put together your like dynasty, like all soccer for any, I mean, I guess we could go in the women's world because that's where you're coaching, right? And they don't get enough love and respect. So, I mean, we could go men's or women's, or you can mix both. So, however you want to do it, but I want you to give me like your 11.
Sure. Okay. Another great question. I might be jumping around here, but Mia Hamm up top.
Okay.
In goal, either Hope Solo or Peter Schmeichel. Center back, I'm going to pick two, one female, one male, Becky Sauerbrunn.
Okay.
And here's an old Italian name for you, Franco Baresi.
Okay.
Paolo Maldini, another Italian. He'd have to be in the back line.
Okay.
Let's see. In midfield, Zinedine Zidane, Michel Platini.
Okay.
Trying to think. I would actually, let's say Kelly O'Hara could be the other outside back. If Maldini's one back, Kelly O'Hara would be the other one.
Okay.
And the forward line, Tobin Heath. Yeah, she was always one of my favorites. So yeah, gotta put Tobes up there. And let's see, what is that 9 so far?
So I'm thinking you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, somewhere around 9, I think.
Okay.
Because you gave me a bunch of center backs, you gave me some mids, you gave me your goal, and you started with Mia.
Yeah, me and Tobin up top, and well, I guess I'll put Messi to complete the midfield,
Okay.
and yeah, I think we can still put another current player, put Cristiano Ronaldo up in the front line. So
Okay.
yeah, it's a pretty good starting 11.
Not bad at all. That sounds good to me. I know Messi made people think MLS just came out last year, for goodness sake. So, what is your second question for me, Neel?
All right, so Mount Rushmore, it has 4 presidents on it.
Okay.
If you were to make a Mount Rushmore of athletes from either Syracuse University or the Syracuse area, kind of central New York,
Yeah.
what would your 4 athletes of a central New York Mount Rushmore be?
Okay. So if I'm picking like former Syracuse players,
To the university or anyone that came out of the area.
or anyone that came out of the area. Oh my goodness. Man, if I just picked running backs who didn't come to Syracuse, there's so many. It's like Latavius Murray, Dorsey Levens. There's so many guys. And
Any sport.
okay. All right. So, okay. My Mount Rushmore, this is what I'm going to do. So I am going to say, it's so easy to say Carmelo, but I feel like Jerry should be up there. I'm going to put Jerry up there. This is no disrespect to Carmelo. I just want to put somebody else up there, and if he deserves to be up there, because he was like the world's, like to me, he was like the best shooter in the entire country before Steph Curry. So I'm going to put Jerry up there, and I'll put Donovan McNabb because I just loved watching him growing up. And I'm going to put 2 more. So I'm going to put Jerry, I'm going to put Donovan McNabb. Oh, boy. This is so difficult. Because I could do it for different sports, but it's hard to do it when I'm putting them all together. I would do... Oh, boy. I would put...
You know, I'm going to put two coaches up there. I have to. I'm going to put Coach P. I got to put Paul Pasqualoni because that was my coach. I mean, I grew up and I was a Coach P kid, and I finally got to interview him when he was at UConn, and I was like, I know you're at UConn, but I didn't get to talk to you because I wasn't broadcasting when he was coaching at Syracuse. I was like, I have to ask you some Syracuse questions. So I would definitely put Coach P up there. I'd put Jerry. I'd put Donovan McNabb. It would be easy to put up Coach Boeheim, but I'm going to throw a curveball, and I'm going to say that I put up Ian McIntyre because him and I had so many fireside chats when, like, nobody was talking to him. And he sends me emails to this day of everything that's going on week by week and whatnot. And I remember that they weren't like him and I have a relationship, but sometimes, like, gatekeepers, they, like, close the gate on people that coaches actually like, and they say they're protecting the coach, but like they're keeping the coach. They're essentially forcing the coach to talk to people that maybe the school talks to, but then when the coach is like, "This is my guy," like you might have a deal with this media outlet, but I don't want to talk to them, and I want to talk to this person because I trust them. So I remember Coach McIntyre. I was like, he's like, "What's going on? We haven't talked." I said, "I've been trying to interview you for like 8 months," and so he was like, "Okay." So I sent a thing to them, whatever. He's like, just come and meet with me. I was in his office, and the person came in that was taking months to put us together and just wasn't doing it. And they came in the office, and he was like, yeah, we're all set here. And they're like, oh, I just want to make sure you're good. He's like, yeah, me and Dan are good. And he's like, and just for further notification, when Dan wants to speak to me, he'll just be coming to me directly. So shout out to Coach Mack because he has had my back from way back in the day. And when he won a national championship, it was great. But like him and I were talking when I don't think people were banging the door down, and I will always remember those moments, and I value Coach Mack to this day, and I actually owe him a phone call, so I'll have to make it after saying his name here on the show today. My question back to you, Neel. If you could pick the brain of any three coaches of any sport, what three coaches would you have dinner with that are living currently, and why?
Okay, that are living currently. Steve Kerr would be one. Just love the energy that he has, and you can just tell the players have quite a connection with him. Emma Hayes with the women's national team. Has done terrific things at Chelsea. A lot of people don't know she actually coached college soccer here in the U.S. With Iona. And man, she's hilarious. Like her responses to media questions and what she does in the press room. I mean, she's witty and it's just funny. It's just hilarious. So for that, but also just to kind of hear. I think it'd be good to have definitely a soccer person in there.
Okay.
And then I guess the other one probably. You mentioned living. Does it have to be a current coach or someone that can be retired?
Could be anybody.
I'd say just for being a Yankee fan, I would love to have Joe Torre in the room. Kind of hear his thing. Again, you could. He seemed like he was just such a player's coach, and listen, there's no question that he had talent on those great Yankee teams, but I think at that level, you really gotta get them to gel and to buy in. And it was very clear that the players had a deep respect and a deep affection, like normal than what you would otherwise see. So just kind of get his take on things and kind of how he did it.
Yeah, I love Joe Torre. If anybody says Joe Torre's name and they start to go negative, my face is always the same. I'm like, don't you dare don't even put a thought in the air around me that's negative toward Joe Torre, because I'll leave the conversation. And like when it comes to Joe is an untouchable Yankee for me. I don't care what anybody says. It doesn't matter. Like I always say, you bite your tongue. If you're going to talk to me about Joe, you better bite your tongue if you're going to be negative. Your final question for me, Neel.
All right. So final question. What led you to towards your pathway, your career? Was it being a fan of sports? Was it, did you follow someone in the media particularly? Like, if you would say, there was one main reason, or perhaps there's just one main influence, what did it come down to?
I'd say God put it in me. I've been writing stories, and since since 5. My dad's word processor. I talk about it. It's my studio I'm sitting in now. My office is connected to my studio, and in my office next to my desk is my dad's word processor. And it's to remind me of, like, you were 5 years old crawling up on the kitchen table to type out your imagination on paper. And so, God just put that in me. Just being a storyteller, I believe I could be a superhero, and you kind of discover what that is. And so to me, it's like every day I wake up, if I'm tired and I felt like I just lifted a building, it's okay. I got to lift another one, right? There might be somebody under it. And I was just on the phone with my buddy, who's a brother to me, and before I was talking with you, and I said to him, I was like, I'm consistent. Like, I'm always going to be consistent with people. You're never going to have to wake up in the morning and say, I have a good relationship with Dan. Is it going to change? Unless you change and push me away, it's not going to change. And I'm like, I'm always consistent. Like, if I got you, I got you. And I can't stand having relationships with people where I don't know if they got me. And I was just talking to him about that. And he said, well, you can't control what other people do. You can only control what you do. And I'm about building relationships. I build one, I go on to the next one, I build it. But you're always going to have me. Like, 5,000 people on my phone, 10,000 people on my phone, 12 people on my phone. You know me, Neel. I know you. You call me. I got you. And that's really important to me. And I said to him, I said, sometimes I'm around people that feel like they're inconsistent. Like, I'm their guy, and then I don't know if I'm their guy. And I'm like, I didn't do anything to not be. And he was like, well, all you can do is just show up and be who you are. And, in this, to bring it back to what you asked me, like, why do I do this, or how did this happen? If I can't show this world God, I'm a failure. If I can't do the right thing, I'm a failure. If I ever make it about the money or the power or the prestige or the clicks, I'm a failure. And I love telling stories, and I'm taking care of that kid. That 5-year-old me that just looked up and would smile and be like, if I told him that he got to talk with Donovan McNabb and Carmelo Anthony and Jim Boeheim, and he got to go to the college football playoff national championship, and he's got a partnership with a school, and he gets to be so ingrained with everything that Binghamton does, when like, I had such a passion and a want to work with Binghamton years ago. Like, I'm always looking back to me as a kid and saying, this is who he believed he could be. Am I living up to his standard? Because that innocence and that focus, when I was a kid, I'm like, I don't have to sin. When you're an adult, people are like, oh, I sin, whatever, I got habits. But as a kid, you're like, I don't have to sin. I can walk this line. I can live a clean life. I could be a good person. And so I look back to him and say, did I let him down today, or did I take care of him? And he's a storyteller. That's all that I've ever really I love creating. And Neel, there is no one on this planet that is ever going to tell me that I can't do something. If I tell you I'm going to write a Spider-Man script and I'm going to make the movie, then that's what I'm going to do. And I've just tried to fan that flame and take care of it, of like, whatever the world thinks you are, that God put you on this world to go as far as you want to go, and he's not going to stop you. So just keep going. And I would say that's who I am. I am a person who thinks there's nothing I can't do, and I know that there's nothing I can't do, and it's just, where do I want to set my energy to?
Well, that. Thank you.
Of course. And my question back to you, Neel, is, I'm going to ask something that I've never asked before. I'm going to bring a bunch of things together. So, you and I, speaking of movies, we're going to make a movie.
Okay.
You're going to pick your profession. Can't be what you're doing. You're going to pick your profession. You're going to pick my profession. They have to be different. So we're going to make a movie. What's your profession? What's my profession? What is the food that we have to eat in every scene? And once the movie is made, what city are we going to premiere it in? So I've never asked this question this way. Your profession, my profession, what food are we eating in every single scene of the movie on purpose? And what city is the world premiere?
Okay. All right. Profession, I'm going to be a drummer in a world famous rock band because that's my fantasy.
Okay, I like it.
And you're gonna be the band's manager.
Okay.
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 Food that we're gonna eat, some with seafood. Every scene, so there'll be some kind of seafood, crab or lobster or shrimp, because I'm always in the mood for that.
Same.
And let's see, city that it would premiere in. Okay, so obviously it's going to be music related.
I'm trying to send it to you in my brain. Because you just said music, and there's one thing that I took with what you said.
So, trying to think. You know what? Because I've been there.
Okay.
It's not known really for rock music, but just the vibrant music scene it has. I'm gonna say New Orleans.
That was my
What,
brain.
seriously?
That was my brain. Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Awesome. Yeah. I was just at Jazz Fest 2 years ago for my second time, and yeah, love that city. And you know what? It's kind of funny. Like it kind of like your question. Like New Orleans brings it all together: food, culture, music. So yeah, that's where I don't know what the plot would be, but that's where the premiere of the movie would be.
Yeah, I mean and I love that. I mean, I did Katrina relief down in New Orleans in May of 2006, and I fell in love with the city, and I think about it all the time. Like it just comes back into my head all the time, and I would love to go back down there. I want to go back down there, but I was trying to send that to you because there was this spot that you literally like went down this alleyway, and you go like into this wall. It's like you're walking like into this opening in a wall, and you go into this room, and there's a few benches, maybe room for like 40, 50 people. You sit down, the band's there, and they have drums, saxophone, guitar, all that stuff. And when the band's done, you can walk right up on the stage and talk to the band members and just, mingle with them. And the cool thing about it is like this place that I was sitting in, this is where like the big time jazz people came. Like they came through here. Like the names that people know, they were just coming in this literal hole in the wall and doing their thing and hanging out in front of a small crowd and just having a great time. So when you said music, my brain was like, please say New Orleans. So the fact that you said New Orleans and you said seafood proves that you and I are aligned. So good choices. But with that being said, Neel Bhattacharjee, the head coach of the Binghamton Bearcats women's soccer team, heading into the 2025 season. Neel, it is always a pleasure of mine to talk with you. The only thing that I would say is I wish it was in person, but hopefully you and I will take some of that personal time in this season and we'll spend some of that time that I talked about a little bit earlier.
Well, terrific, and always a pleasure speaking with you, and again, appreciate your platform. I hope people get a chance to come down and see us play. We'll be at Syracuse on September 4th, or if you want to make the drive down to Binghamton. Excited about this team. Got a great group of kids. So again, appreciate you putting the spotlight on them for all the work that they put in for the game.
Well, it's my pleasure, and like I said, I like being around positive energy. So thank you, Neel, for what you do and your staff, and to these student athletes that are going to make it happen on the field. I know that, so I'm excited to see it.
All right. Thanks, Sam.
That coming once again from Neel Bhattacharjee. I want to thank Chick-fil-A, DeWitt, Bridge Street, and Erie. They opened last week on August 7th, and they are here for you in this week one and proud to be home right off of Erie Boulevard and Bridge Street in DeWitt. Go and visit Megan Sorber and her wonderful team at Chick-fil-A DeWitt today. And many thanks to all of our wonderful partners on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. I cannot thank them enough. Great Lakes, Honda City, Carvel, DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Chick-fil-A, Cicero, Avicoli's, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Mother's Cupboard, Pizza Man, Ma and Pa's, the snack capital of the world, Brian's Landing, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Chick-fil-A DeWitt, and of course we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse and your Binghamton University Bearcats. You'll find the Bobcats every single month with student athletes, coaches, administration, and alumni throughout the year telling their stories. And for Binghamton, like today, every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time is Bearcat time with student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year. You can find the Bobcats and the Bearcats by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell. And, of course, you'll find the BSC Syracuse playlist and the Binghamton playlist. The Bobcats and the Bearcats are also on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to, for the Bobcats, syracuse.bscbobcats.com, and for your Bearcats, binghamtonbearcats.com. I thank you for tuning in to the show Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. And of course, we jump into the archives on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. For now, from the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, I say God bless, no stress, do your best, and may God lead us through anything to the promised land. Amen.